Hey everyone, it's so great to see you. Welcome to history class. Today we're going to be talking about Korea, and it's our second part of our studies on it. Last time we talked about the geography, we talked about some of the early history. I think the little thing will pop up over there for you to be able to go back there if you missed it, and feel free to sing your song beforehand. So let's get to Korea. All right. All right, so let's go to Buddhism where we left off last time. We had our kingdoms of Korea, and then we started getting into some of the cultural aspects. So, Buddhism is going to become a very dominant religion of Korea. It comes around 372, and the majority of the Korean peninsula is going to wind up adopting Buddhism as their main religion. We had shamanism last week, which shamanism won't go away. And one of the cool things, like how we saw in India, how Hinduism is going to wind up incorporating aspects of Buddhism, we're going to see a melding of those two faiths as well. So, Buddhism, as I was saying, was dominant and becomes the official religion. And we're going to see the arts are going to be heavily influenced by Buddhism. We have many Buddhist statues. Even today, Buddhism is an extremely influential religion with almost a quarter of the population professing to be Buddhists. Things like the Buddhist birthday or a national holiday. So let's look at just some evidence of the importance of Buddhism. So here we have a primary source, the 10 Injunctions of Wonghung. And this is going to be a primary source from Korea. The success of every great undertaking of our state depends upon the favor and protection of Buddha. Therefore, the temples of both the meditation and the doctrinal schools should be built, and monks should be sent out to these temples to minister to Buddha. Later on, if villainous courtiers attain power and come to be influenced by the entreaties of bonzes, the temples of various schools will quarrel and struggle among themselves for gain. This ought to be prevented. So, a bonzes is a Buddhist monk. If you didn't know, because I know I didn't know until I looked it up. So, what was the key to the success? Well, of course, it was the favor and protection of Buddha. So, having the spiritual aspects being excellent. Now, part two. Let's look at geomancy real fast right here. The art of placing and arranging buildings or other sites auspiciously. Therefore, when they say that with luck, with going and having it so that they would be lucky and benefit you to have it there. So anyways, part two. Temples and monasteries were newly opened and built upon the site chosen by monk Toscan according to the principles of geomancy. He said, if temples and monasteries are indiscriminately built at locations not chosen by me, the terrestrial force, the Earth's forces, and energy will be sapped, meaning drained, and damaged, hastening the decline of the dynasty. I am greatly concerned that the royal family, the aristocracy, and the courtiers may all build many temples and monasteries in the future in order to seek Buddha's blessings. In the last days of Sila, many temples were capriciously built. As a result, the terrestrial forces and energy were wasted and diminished, causing its demise. Vigilantly guard against this. So he's basically saying that we have to have the temples not only built to please Buddha, but built in the right spots, built in the right ways. That the Sila dynasty, which we talked about falling and coming part of Koryo, before that, they've said, oh, well, we need to make Buddha happy. Let's build, build, build. And it was all for naught. I've said the word courtiers a bunch of times too, and you might not be familiar with that word. Courtiers, those are just the people in the royal court, all jockeying for power. So the question is, who is more powerful, the state or the Buddhists? And I bet initially a lot of you guys were thinking, oh, it's got to be the Buddhists. But let's look at this line here that if Temples and monasteries are indiscriminately built at locations and not chosen by me. The terrestrial force's energy will be sapped and damaged. So, the idea was that this man, Wang Kong, is going to be above Buddhism, but he wants to make the Buddha happy. And why would you still want to be appealing to Buddhists? Well, because many of your people are Buddhists. So we don't want to quickly look at something face value and think about what something's saying. So we're going to say that Buddhism is going to be very important, especially to the people. But we have to remember, kings always want to say that they are the true power, not these spiritual things. All right. So this is a fun little thing. At Triptaka, we have all of these wood blocks of Buddhist scripture. This is so stinking cool. People go there today. We see in that middle picture there, the aerial view, how humongous this is. And we see a close-up of what we see for all of these Buddhist writings. So it's a pretty amazing sight. Another example of just the influence of Buddhism on Koryo. Okay, so getting to Koryo now. Okay, so when we last left off our lecture, we talked about how we had the three kingdoms. I know I have the one fan in the back, probably Michael saying, and Caleb, both of them being like, what about Kea? Well, guess what? They fell to the Shila pretty fast. So we have our Shila, our Pekche, and our Goguryeo. And they're all going to come together, 935, and we have Koryo. Some of you are thinking, Mr. Kenny, I thought it was Goguryeo with 3 syllables. Well, they wanted to impress the Chinese. The Chinese thought that 3-syllabic words were barbaric, and they wanted to appeal to the Chinese, so they changed their name to Koryo from Goguryeo. And that's how we get Korea today, which is pretty neat. Now, while they're trying to impress the Chinese, they also go and copy their imperial system. We see them setting up a government. We see them also having similar technological advancements. The movable metal type was actually invented by Korea and then imported to China. That's right. So something that we always talk about movable type being a Chinese innovation, the Koreans improved upon it using metal. And we saw some examples of that in our last slide with that great temple complex. We're also going to see a lot of Celadon pottery, which Celadon is going to be very similar to porcelain. So we see similar industries as well. Remember porcelain often having the white and the blue, where this is a little greenish tint. So it's similar kinds of technology, very beautiful and very, very expensive. Moving on. We've talked about the Mongols, and we know that the Mongols too are going to invade Korea. The Koreans are going to valiantly fight against the Mongols, but by 1258, there is no stopping them, and they surrender. And when we have Kublai Khan conquering the southern Song and creating the Yuan Empire, Korea just becomes part of that. We see that the kings of Koryo, they will still be considered kings, although they will be subjugated, and they are going to marry into Mongolian royalty. They're going to be marrying princesses. It's going to be one of those things that the Mongols will typically, the men will marry Chinese princesses, and the Mongolian princesses will be married to what they considered lesser groups among them. And Korea is going to be instrumental for the invasions of Japan. Both of those two failed attempts. The Koreans are essentially going to be enslaved to produce the navies. We're going to see that, much like the southern Chinese, the Koreans are going to be abused pretty badly by the Mongols, probably because we know that they were all about you either surrender or die. And the Koreans, they didn't wipe them out, but they definitely fought on. So they had poor treatment by the Mongols because of that. Just some art showing the battling between the Koreans and the Mongolians. All right, we're going to get to the final royal dynasty of Korea. And this is going to be the most important and super, super cool. All right, so we have the Choson Dynasty, which the Choson were actually the name of the very first kings of Korea. So we're going to see our final dynasty harkening back to the very beginning. Yi Songgae is going to take control of the Korean peninsula. The Mongols are gone. And he creates, sometimes you hear it the Yi or Choson, both are appropriate, and they both kind of get used interchangeably. In our song, we say innovations from the Yi. Now, once again, they are going to copy China. Buddhism is still going to be important, but they're going to copy the Chinese and go Neo-Confucian, all right? We're going to see more copying the Chinese, and we're going to see many achievements. They create instruments. This is actually going to be under their most famous emperor, Sejong the Great, who is not only an emperor, but an inventor. How cool is that, right? He said, well, I could rule or I could make the world a more awesome place. We have the measurements to measure rain, which we sing. We're going to have a ton of astronomical advantages. We're going to have the Yi sundial, which we see pictured on the top, which we see is pretty awesome, and you can get a lot of information. Globes, yes, they knew the world was round. Everybody knew the world was round. Funny how some people today doubt it, and especially now that we have more evidence like pictures from space. The greatest of these achievements is going to be Hangul, which I'm going to attach a separate video from Thoughts Pill, which is just so interesting about Hangul, the Korean alphabet, because it was literally designed so that anybody could learn it. They had this statement saying that, well, if you're, a fool, you could learn it in a week, and if you're smart, you'd learn it in a morning. It's pretty cool. It's based on the shapes of the your mouth makes when you say the letters. It's pretty great. All right, so we are going to stop it there. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day. I love getting to be with you virtually. At least I wish I could be with you guys there in person. This is Mr. Kenny signing off. Hope you have a great rest of your day. Feel free to like and subscribe, pass it around so that more people can learn about Korean history, because not that many people know about it. You guys are going to know more than your neighbors and others, and that's pretty cool. See you later.